I think right now it's actually improving a lot because there is new government policy and framework that informs.
All right, Socheata, thank you so much for joining us on Rising Giants today. We are very excited and grateful to have you on the show. You are the founder and CEO of StoopiDoo, which is a education venture based in Cambodia with a mission to bring interactive learning and digital literacy and computing to schools across the country. You are helping bring things such as e-learning, ed tech, for product development, digital literacy, into curriculum design, among many other things as well. We just want to say, first of all, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. We had a great discussion before clicking record, and am excited to continue that discussion now. I think a great place to start on the episode would be if you can give us a little bit of a background about yourself and what inspired you to create StoopiDoo.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Socheata, and as you have mentioned, I started SnoopeDoo back in 2020. It actually was during COVID, but actually before that, my co-founder, I have a co-founder, Nusaklina, and we met back in, and since I was in eighth grade, and she was studying in Singapore at the time, so she actually came to, she was like a little bit of a senior, so we actually was doing similar extracurricular in our high school, so she was actually coming to my school through that extracurricular to be like the senior that help us with the squad and the drill. So yep. So it's anyway, that's how we met. But then I think later on we started to connect because of our passion for education, and we always have a lot of discussion about it, and we know that we wanted to do something for it, but we never know how. We don't really know how. Kind of conversation going. And I think in 2020, when I come home from my graduate study in New Zealand, I came home and it was COVID. And at the time, I also got to a position as a part-time lecturer in a higher education institution to teach human-computer interaction. This is basically, it's like UI UX design in the faculty of ICT for student in computer science and management information system major. As I was teaching, I actually was seeing that I was looking into how students perform. There are like some very high functioning students, and what make those difference when they are given like similar environment, like school environment. So there's also this aspect that I actually go into see like there's also interesting number of students that would change major or would drop out of the major because the challenge that is found in how they could not catch up with programming class. So when I look into the way programming was taught in university, it's actually it was taught as in like introduction to programming 101 with C++, with JavaScript, with Python. So you actually were taught to the language. And and I also look into how students in the, before they come into the university, in grade 12 what was the background. So there are students that actually have some of like very STEM based approach background who actually tend to do better and catch up better on those kinds of subject like programming, and those who come from the background that did not get any exposure at all prior, so they tend to struggle. And I also look into like the way that programming was taught in like top university in the world. I even signed up once myself, and like I signed up for a class in Harvard, and the way that they taught it, like they started with scratch, and that was like, that is so fun, that is so cool. Why we don't teach it like that? And I was like, okay, I have a hypothesis. I say like actually Scratch is so fun. I think you don't have to start in the university. You can start as young as possible. So at that time, I was like creating this like the curriculum and using the microbit. It's similar to Scratch. It still use the block-based coding, and it also has a hardware. And I think in Cambodia, people are more keen to think that they can see and they can touch. So I bring this like 3-month curriculum with every week there is like projects to it, and then I go to school and ask whether I could train their student to do this on this, and I would do it as extracurricular, and then they say yes, they would be. I could do it, and actually we started getting paid for it, and I was like, okay, we have something there, and then we actually started to do more and more. I think at one year we have a summer school of like over 200 students. That's when I
And
know
just yeah, and sorry, just to jump in really quick. And so this was after your time in Canada and New Zealand. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, okay, understood. And so so in the part of the journey that we're at right now is with is as you created the early version of StoopiDoo, and you're testing the product market fit to see how receptive it is within the schools that you want to expose this program to, and this is in Cambodia, and so from what it sounds like, it was quite successful in the early days. Is that right, as I understand it?
Yes, actually, it was successful in a way, but I wasn't. So actually, during that time, if we look into the number of students, we actually was quite successful because in one summer we have like over 280 students in the class. But that is also very dependent on school. And as I try to actually get to more school, I realized that it's very school dependent. There are school that they are very receptive to it because they have the leadership that see the vision and see the value of it, and that's actually not the majority of schools in Cambodia that has that
Really? Why would that
leadership
be the
that is.
case? Yeah, why would that be the case?
So first of all, I think coding, programming, STEM is actually it's still relatively a new term here in Cambodia. I think school level wise, people know more, especially public school. Actually, I think interestingly, I believe that teachers or principal at public school are way more understanding or have more urgency to the need of STEMs or the needs of transformation better than private school because they have always been informed and reinforced by the Ministry of Education, because the Ministry of Education, the Department of Education, they have the policy that actually mandated of the transformations to happen toward the 21st century school. So that means that you need to have very comprehensive STEM approach into the learning. So people actually have been well informed of that. The private school, on the other hand, I do believe that individual teacher actually know what it means. People in education actually know what it means, but how to actually do it, it's actually not really. It's the missing piece of the puzzle, and I think every school have to figure out that missing piece of the puzzle, and it's also different in terms of different school, different student has different context of how they should do that or how they could do that, and there is this lack of the kind of the bigger understanding of what is STEM. So STEM is like stand for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But in the educational context, STEM is not just about those subject specific, but it's also about the approach to teaching through exploration, through building, through guiding the student to find the answer. There's the switch between the from teacher-centric to student-centric. So those are still the part where I think I think still a big number of people in education that we're not caught up to it yet. Because right now, if you ask people, how do you can implement STEM? I think the easiest way to say is that to do coding. So for us, I know we
Oh,
know that
so you mean to use StoopiDoo? So you mean to use
Yes.
StoopiDoo?
Yeah. So
So
for us,
so
that would be like, yeah, this is an opportunity for us to get our foot in the door, to just introduce coding and say that it fit with the STEM approach. But after a while, we wanted to do more. We know that it is not enough. It's not enough to just have 1 hour of coding class and call that it's a STEM school or a STEM approach. It has to be holistic. The way that the classroom and the student are being taught has to be different, because the STEM approach, it's not just about to build on your technical skills, but it's also to build on your life skill, the problem solving, the way you think, the way you create, the way you innovate. So it has to be more than just that. So that's what we wanted to do, that we wanted to help school transform, but more than just that. So we have been actually taking a step back from that business model that worked as providing the extracurricular on coding, and we're trying to, I think in the past 3 years, we actually trying to take a step back from being we still do that. If school need us, we still do summer. But for us, we actually focus on developing the business and the solution that's really focusing on on the holistic approach to integrating the STEM approach. So
sorry, and just to quickly, just to kind of tie everything together as I understand it, originally with StoopiDoo, what you were implementing were going into both public and private schools, and into these individual schools, and essentially moving forward, either like implementing some of the classes or helping with helping the teachers like implement some of the different learnings that kind of revolve around STEM. But as you realize, both in the private and public school systems and at the individual school level, there's a lot of different kinds of challenges and strategies that you have to develop or had to develop in order to kind of like fit the mold of this environment that you were in. And so what it sounds like now too is and like taking the step back and still doing that part of the business, but taking the step back now, you're looking at and approaching this entire world with a different view. And so the question would be, what strategies have you developed to like overcome these kind of to overcome like what you've experienced so far, and what does this holistic approach look like that you're wanting to do?
Yeah. So first, we actually try to get to school, and I think the first thing we wanted to do was we'll just try to get to school as fast as we can. So I think coding classes allow us to do that. Also, we run free workshop. We do a lot of engagement, community engagement, anything that get us into the classroom with the student, learning from as many schools as possible. And actually, we didn't make money from it. But for us, that was like part of the job that we do. Like the number of students is the biggest indicator that we wanted. And now and after that, we actually learned that every school is different, but there is like a common factor. So the challenge to digital transformation in school. So first is the lack of resource, the resource as in human resource, and also like the materials. So teacher are not teach that, like what I also mentioned, like there was this gap of the knowledge and the know-how to implement STEM. And I think that is, and it's also come to like different level at each school as well. Like for some school, there are teachers who are very highly skills and already been very much understanding of how to research, how to develop like a good lesson plan. So what we can do is basically just educate them on the framework and setting those vision. But there are schools who actually don't have anything. For example, there are schools who is still basically onboarding the teacher to use PowerPoint. So that is a different levels of how each school is actually facing on that factor of resource. And there is the infrastructure. So infrastructure as in like the device that they have, the access to the computer, the access to the information technologies that the school have. Some school would have very fancy equipment, and there are some school who don't have. Some school don't have access to the internet, and then it's also related to to the resource of what type of the curriculum that they are having access to. What are the material that do they have access to? Are they dependent on the internet or no internet? So those are and then there is the aspect of the lack of ecosystem in general that make the student want to go to school and learn because they enjoy learning. I still think that most of the student go to school because it's actually they have to do it. The parent put them in school and they think it is a way of how people have to go through. But I think learning come from, the character that make the student being motivated to learn is that they enjoy learning. They wanted to learn. They are curious about something. So that is also kind of like the motivation in the student themselves that wasn't there. So that make it hard when STEM is kind of like an approach that is very active. It's like active learning approach. And the other aspect is infrastructure, human resource, curriculum. And so based on curriculum, I also mean that it's not just about the what to teach, but how do you teach it? So the pedagogy. So most of there is actually, I think with the resource that we have now with the internet and access, there is no constraint to the content of what you can teach or what you can find as a resource, but also how do you deliver that. That also come with the lack of that context. And also there is, I think right now it's actually improving a lot because there is new government policy and framework that informs schools or how what is the learning objective for the people, for the future workforce and stuff, so you can build around that. But also like how school implement or actually take those policy and implement it within their school, it's still probably limiting. So that is also come with the management of the school. So that is kind of like the challenge. So what we do to address those challenges is that we don't have this like average school profile. We actually spend time to go into the school. We talk to the teacher, we talk to the principal, and we actually, most of the time when we ask to talk to the principal, they also bring teachers, so we were able to talk to them and understand what is going on, what do they need. And what we do is actually we trying to get to understand what is their vision for the school, and then we actually help them frame those vision. So that is like when you have that kind of like the vision that we want to see, and then we help them by creating kind of like a long-term roadmap from piloting to fully integrated. So it usually happen within like a 1 to 3 to 5 years long-term plan. We don't just want to do like, okay, we come in, we do one class, which is our early approach. We do one class for 3 months and then we left, and then the parent asks, so what's next? The student asks what's next, and we don't. And then actually for us, it's actually really difficult at the time, because to get a contract signed with a school for like 3 months, it was like a 1 year long of work. So actually it wasn't making any sense with the previous business model as well. So right now we actually looking toward to like work as a strategic partner with them in terms of implementation, that we provide all of the technical support. So some schools don't even have teacher, they cannot hire teacher, so we have teacher, so we send our teacher to their school. So actually initially when we realized that we want to go through this holistic approach of transformation in school, we know that the key factor to change is teacher. So we think, okay, maybe we could do teacher training. But then we also realized that actually most of the schools don't have the budget for teacher training. And especially in private school, they have very quick turnover rate of teachers. So it doesn't make sense for them to like invest in a lot of money in like training one teacher and then they move on to the next. So that is also a challenge from the school side. It's not like they don't want to, but it's not really practical. And so for us, what we do is that we come up with this plan because we know that they don't want to pay for teacher training. So what we do is, but we know that school, they would pay for book, they would pay for resource. So they have the money for that. So what we do is that, okay, so we will develop like a platform where we put the curriculum on there. So then we can charge them on subscription fee. It's actually very cheap. It's very affordable. If you look from like the number of, from like the student, one student has to pay around $2 per month on subscription, and then we will train the teacher to teach our curriculum, and they have access to our technology, they have access to our technical support, and also we meet with the teacher every month to do the skill development, to do the capacity building, and to do the planning with them. So after a year, we see like in the school, what happened was that the teacher actually become the change maker. They become so that is actually the change that we wanted to see. So after they have that resource of teacher as a change maker in their school, we could actually look into scaling. So that is kind of like our approach. So it's not straightforward. It's actually quite complicated.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of pieces that go into it, and I honestly I really enjoyed listening to the entire thought stream that you had of how of just how intentional that you and the team are in terms of wanting to just in general continue to improve and build upon Cambodia's current education system, and to almost have that like further alignment with like the global standards in innovation and technology that you've experienced and what you've seen. So it's really refreshing to hear about your strategies and how you're overcoming those challenges, and ultimately the foundation that you built it on with between, you know, curriculum creation, infrastructure and human resources in general. I do kind of want to take a quick step into maybe something more personally. If there's any story that you can share of how you know, learning code or programming of a certain kind has transformed one of the students that you've worked with's mindset or approaches to different challenges or just to STEM in general.
Yes. So I think you can look at it into like different levels. I think with education, usually we have this framework of looking into changes in students based on their knowledge, skills, and behavior. The highest level that you want is the behavior. And I usually notice that in try to kind of notice that, but not try to be creepy and psychoanalyze them. But so on the skill level, so on the knowledge level, you would test something like, for example, within the class, what do they know now about programming? What do they know about the components? What do they know about the approach of building this project? So that's easily, you can test it within the class. So we could see that happen after the first class to the end of class, like students just have this like quickly knowing how to navigate through the interface, how to identify the pieces and components that they need for their project. On the skill level, there you see like the way that they solve problems. So when they hit like a roadblocks, because in programming you would have to debug. Like there is you can see that when they approach those debugging process, they just take it as one part of the process, and like there's this kind of skill of actually getting into those the computational process of it. So we see that in the student. I'm actually thinking of one student in particular, and I will talk specific on the behavioral skill. So on the behavioral side, we actually see those who actually become very self-aware and was able to know what they want. And that is something like, I'm talking from an example of a student that has been with us for over at our makerspace for over 3 courses already. So he came in and he was studying he was actually don't have any background in programming. He came in because the father is very supportive and he just want to explore. He's actually very smart and just wanting to learn. And actually he was able to catch up. So actually on the size of the skill and the knowledge and skill level, it's something that I think another thing I say in education, the knowledge and the skill level, you could orchestrate it as an educator. You could orchestrate for the student to get that based on like what you know that they are lacking, what do you know that their way of learning, that you want to make them to learn those skills in a way that they want, in a way that they enjoy it. So you can orchestrate that, and actually it's just easily to check it off. But the behavioral is something interesting because like this kid, after 3 courses, and he was like building something, and I asked him and he said that actually he doesn't like programming. And actually I think that for me, I take it as a good sign because the goal for us is that we don't say that you all have to be a programmer. I think what we want to achieve from the programming is that behavioral of analyzing and being able to think. And he is actually 9 years old, and he said, I think after now I don't really like to code because it's very it's not fun, but I like design, so I want to study the 3D design class that we have. And that is something that I think it's really cool for kids to be able to say that about themselves voluntarily. But we also face this is also another side that we face the constraint is that parents would take that as like they would try to push him to like keep going on the programming side. I don't know, maybe it's gonna work out well. Maybe he would ending up like still becoming a good programmer and was doing something great. But I think to diminish that side that he know about himself, that he is more into the creative side, he want to do the design. It could be. So actually we're still trying to navigate those. But I think for me, what we do now, we try to also, when he come to the class on that he was doing robotic, where the parent expect to, we still try to bring in the element of design that he enjoy as much as possible.
What classes have been like the most popular or like have surprised you in their like uptick for the students wanting to learn about these subjects? You mentioned robotics, design, programming. Like there seems to be like lots of different areas. Which ones do you think you see the most demand for?
I think we have this class called the EduBit class. It's especially a young. No, I think with the EduBit class, it's also easy to talk to parent because it's a very. So we have like a box of hardware. It's like microprocessors and different components of like LEDs with different input and output that they can see. And for us, that is just an easy way to talk to parent. Okay, the kid will be able to build this. So after the kids finish that, they actually could continue to more things. And that's when you started to see they started to think about their interests. So some people now they know coding, but they want to build an app instead of building a hardware. Some people want to build a website instead of want to work on robot. And some people just realize that they want to do something more creative, like with 3D printing and stuff.
Do you ever see like this differ between the student versus the school? Like what does the school want for the students to learn in the STEM field versus what do the students actually lean more towards?
I think the student always lean more toward things that they can build. They can see tangible results. Rather than, I think they try to go into, they try to stay away from anything that require rote learning as much as possible. And I think it's obvious even from our own. But what really draw them into really being motivated into this is to actually have some expected outcome from that. So, okay, now we're going to study web development. At the end, you're going to build a website to inform on something or to have a specific purpose, and then maybe you will be able to present it here and there. So that actually create motivation for them. So that is kind of like the low-hanging fruit that we try to put into those journey of their learning to make sure that they know what they could achieve it in the short term. But I think for us as like we are in this field, we know that what happened during when they go through those process as well is that they are unconsciously learning all the way on how to solve problem. Which is the key learning outcome for us.
Yeah.
But we are not always be able to like sell on that. So that's why for us it's actually easier to say, okay, this is what you could create, and this is these are the opportunity out there, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And how? I mean, it'd be weird if we didn't talk about this, but how has AI like impacted everything that you do? And is it kind of a tool that complements everything, or is there also like a impact in terms of like some of these professions that people were maybe thinking about pursuing, like let's say being a graphic designer or like some aspects of coding? Like, is that now less popular because they know that these could be, I mean, these could be like disintermediated in the future by AI agents or things like that?
I think it's more needed than ever for students to know this, because I mean, if you look at AI, like from like a fundamental level, what it is, it's an algorithm. And you need to understand what algorithm is. You need to understand the process of what the algorithm actually take input, going through this like design like process, and then it create an output. You need to understand those to be able to like, I think, communicate with the AI agent. So there's like the skill, of course, the skills of needing to communicate to the machine would be there, but how do you do that? So it actually still require you to understand how computer work, how all of those process work at the low level. And for me, I believe that actually now it's more than ever that at least just as when you used to say, okay, you need to study like English because the world is going to be globalized, and think you will be everybody will be like very mobile, so you need to know this language. It's actually that parallels in that sense that you need to know programming to understand this machine that is technology that is like working side to side with us. So I think this is pretty much needed. So in terms of what does it help us with our work every day, it actually helps us a lot. I think so actually there is also the thing that the background, actually StoopiDoo started off as a product, as like intended to be a product company. We are still wanting to go into that direction. Actually, we are actually coming back to our product development, focusing on product side now that we actually understand the challenge, the solution. We actually was able to build and design the roadmap of the product for that.
When you say product, do you mean like more like ed tech, like
Yes.
like a platform where people just log in and
Yep.
okay.
Also, I think at the moment, actually, the surprising fact was that I was never thought of being a hardware developer, but also right now, based on the Cambodia's context, we might actually going to explore the aspects of hardware as well to make sure that the technologies that we develop on the software side is actually compatible with the environment that we have across Cambodia. Because you see, in Cambodia, if we might have coverage with data, but in the classroom, when you are in the lab, in outside of Phnom Penh or outside of the city, you still don't have access to the internet. And then how can you talk about digital literacy or digital transformation when school don't have access to internet?
I think the other really interesting thing is that like during COVID, everyone with this obviously this like forced to be everything to be digital. You know, everyone thought these like ed tech platforms would just like take over, and you wouldn't even need to go to school anymore or go to university. But actually, I think what happened is from what I understand is like actually most of the grades went down and like test scores like came down a bit because it's just quite hard to organize people in an online environment unless it's like actually followed up with like some more hybrid, like a hybrid situation as well.
Yep.
So I think now it's like this shift back to like really like focusing on the classroom and community
Yes.
and building
Yes.
that. Yeah, that.
Yes, actually, I thank you for raising that up. I think what actually I see happen is after COVID, we realized that people was like, oh, we need school because we cannot just be. No, actually, COVID happened. There is this thing but before COVID, when you think about online or distant learning, it almost like a frown upon, and that was also but then COVID happened, you have to do it, and then people, okay, we can do it, but then we know that, oh, it's not optimal because people need the social contact. And I actually have a 8-year-old sister at the time that was actually doing online from school, and from the online school from home, online home from school.
Yeah.
But so she was doing that, and she actually was an independent learner. For her, she was always like more about like learning by herself, and when she go to school, she actually just more to play. So she actually missed that part. Like, yes, school on the study side, it doesn't affect because she's always been independent with her learning, but she still missed school because she missed friends, she missed the social contact. So that's actually, I think we need to maybe still think about that as right now, what happened with the distant learning is that you were able to democratize learning in a way that it wasn't be able to before, because there are part of our world where actually going to school is not safe for people, like especially in terms of like if you look into there are students who would have to travel very far, or they would be it's challenging, and it's just not safe too if it's very far, and especially if you're a girl. So actually distant learning in terms of getting the information and like the lectures type of learning, the information based the knowledge based learning could happen in school in distant. Knowledge based learning also can happen in distant, but the behavioral side actually it has to happen within a social within a spatial place and through social interaction. So that's when schools come in. So there are part where you can actually decentralize it and give it to distant, and some part where it's actually need. But that's highlight the importance of school, the importance of teacher, and the importance of this school, this space of learning as a communal space. And which is actually, I think it's exciting for this new era of education, because we are, I don't know, but for me, at StoopiDoo at least, we're trying to actually imagine school from a different spot of just bringing the kid there and make them feel like emotionally and mentally tortured, but now become a space that they're excited to go.
Okay. And maybe just like setting the framing a little bit, how does Cambodia compare to like some of the other countries in the region in terms of their like adoption of STEM-based education, and like where we are in terms of like, as you say, like digital literacy and things like that? Could you maybe just share a bit more on that, on like how much of a challenge is it to kind of get Cambodia from where it is now to more of like the regional / global standard?
Yes. So I think like I also talked about this before. I think the challenge that we addressed. So I think the first one was the teacher. And I think that is also interesting because before I actually was working directly with teacher, there is also the notion of, but teacher don't want to do more. Teacher are overloaded. But actually, when I work with teacher, the teacher wanted to do it, and that's something that I think already kind of get checked off as the reports, the prerequisite of of getting there. And then there is also the level of, but teacher want to do it, but the leader, the head of school don't want to do it. And I could find head of school who would want to do it. So that is actually already quite there. So there's like the lack of, again, the resource of how can we do it. So I think that's why for me, creating StoopiDoo as a space where we could build those ecosystem for people who want to contribute back to education intentionally, to come together and support those. So I am optimistic because otherwise we don't have a purpose in our work. So I'm optimistic that we are close to actually, I think, being competitive, because we were able to identify those people who want to do it, like the head of school, the teacher who are passionate about it. And I think the community that we have at StoopiDoo, that makes me hopeful. But there is still the challenge, like what I mentioned to you before this. It's actually, it's really not something that straightforward if you want to have a business or a successful startup. In a sense that because the market don't exist, in the sense that of course everyone would want their education to be the best. Every school would want the education to be the best, but where is that budget to work with external provider? It don't exist. So most of the time we were actually used to getting the development partner funding and program to support schools.
Right.
But then after the program ended, the school don't have the resource to sustain those practice. And I think that was because of the kind of maybe the gap in their sustainability planning of those projects, and the lack of like the intentional knowledge transfer that have to happen for school to be able to still doing that after they left. But also, I mean, after a while, you also need to refresh because technology develop every day. So school actually school need to develop like every day as well. So who is going to like sustain those part of learning? So it has to have that entity that are driven by the learning, the progression, and have that passion to share those to school. So that's what StoopiDoo is built for. So that's what I feel like we are actually, I mean, policy-wise, we are there. I saw Cambodia representing an international stage as it's very with our vision of education that is very competitive. And also right now, like our public school, actually most of them are like autonomous, which means that the head of school have the power to make the decision, and that actually bring those, make innovation could happen at school level.
How does it differ between the public and private sector? I think one trend that we are observing a bit is that there is definitely an expansion of like more lower cost private schools now in Cambodia, or like I think before it was like more segmented to like public school, and then there was like this, not that many private schools. I think it seems like there are a lot more now. And are they all now playing a role towards that and towards STEM, or is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think now private school does play that role of filling in the gap. But before it was actually filling in this gap of what people was looking for that wasn't there in the public school. For example, better infrastructure, safer gate around the school so the child won't go out. So those are the things that private school has been like filling those gap. But as but like I think in the past decade, there is tremendous development in public school side that actually now school are doing very much better, like with the model school framework, with the child-friendly school framework, that now school that's actually trying to compete for those titles, so they are improving on the local level. So like there is this momentum that's going on in the public school, which actually maybe imposed more of a competition to the private school that you have to even do better now. So that's for me, like I don't really concern about private school. It's not in the sense that I love working with private school partner that instantly gets it, but I also feel like before, here is the thing, like if there is like two partner, that public school that don't want to go for it, and the private school that don't want to go for it, we would go with the public school that don't want to go for it, because at least public school principal would know that the Department of Education, the provincial or the Ministry of Education has this policy that they have to comply to. So we actually would be able to say that, okay, we could help you to build like a thing to achieve these kinds of thing, and to but I think on private school side, I don't know much on like what is it that inform the governance structures or the management system or the strategy of the school. So that is something that is quite, so actually at the public school there is like this universal benchmark that you can always go to, which is the policy. This is what the Ministry of Education has mandated them to do. So for us, it's actually easier to kind of like identify that need and help us design and propose things that would work for them. And I do believe that it shouldn't be, because as a Cambodia, I grew up, I also went to private school. I went to private school because my parents think that it's better for me to go to private school than to go to public school. But the thing, as I grew up and I was traveling, that's when I think that Canada and New Zealand was quite transformative for me, because as I grew up and I traveled, I was like, they don't do that there. I mean, it's like they don't even like differentiate public school or private school unless it's like very specific case. So actually everybody has access to this very this like standard high quality education, and I just kind of like that should be the case in Cambodia too. So that's what but that's the thing, like right now, that's why our main purpose has always been about the equal access, make sure that the quality education is equitable to everybody regardless of which school they go for. So we cannot leave out private school or public school. But the point, there are some prerequisites for us that at this stage, at least we need to work with those who has the mindset and the willingness to go, so we can build those cases and we can start from 1, 2, 3 school.
Yeah, no, and completely agree with that. And if you have one final vision looking into the next, 2 or 3 years of where you foresee StoopiDoo being and what kind of role it is playing in the education industry in Cambodia, what would you say are 1 or 2 of the main things that you see?
Oh, I would want to see like us working collaboratively with with the public education sector, with principal, with school teacher. I want to see I think in school level, I want to see there are activities going on, like the STEM club, different program, and those are run by school themselves, by the teacher. And we would be the one that championing them and supporting them. And I also think by 1 or 2 years, because we do have a development of a roadmap that we're working on at the moment, we hope we actually was able to launch some product that we have in mind, like the coding computer that we plan to build, just basically based on Raspberry Pi, but to make sure that they are not dependent on the internet to work on the curriculum or the learning that we build, that the learning that we design for them. So that is like something that I want, and also I hope we were able to launch our space program.
Yes, super excited to hear more about that. And as we are coming up on time for the episode, we do have a traditional closing question that we like to ask each of our guests, and that is, what is the most important piece of advice you've ever been given?
Actually, this come in a conversation with a founder. I actually have a lot, but I think there's one specific that stuck. I think at one point I was having like actually there's always something that we face as founder is like when you're meeting like challenges, and then you thought like it's always come to the funding, and then he mentioned that you might not have a funding problem, you might have a you might not have a financial problem, but you might have a management problem. So that helped me to like look at things from a different perspective. Yeah. So sometimes founder would think money is the problem, but maybe it's other thing.
Yeah, that's yeah. I can. We have heard from a lot of founders a very similar response as well. But so Cheda, we just want to thank you again for joining us in Rising Giants today. It was awesome to talk to you more about StoopiDoo and all the exciting developments that you are creating and forerunning and leading in the education industry in Cambodia. And we look forward to maybe having you on again sometime next year once Artemis 2 goes live. So
I
yeah.
hope
So
so.
yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. Okay.